Today we are talking about community, and we're going to begin with the three kinds of friendship according to the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Friendships of utility are when we associate with each other because there's some kind of mutual advantage. We are on a sports team, we want to win together, we're business partners, or we study together to pass our courses. Friendships of pleasure are when we just hang out together because we find the other person interesting or they're fun to be with. And finally, friendships of virtue are when we have the common goal of improving our character. Whenever people see these three kinds of friendship, we right away start evaluating, who's my friend and in what category? So we start asking, well, who do I actually just spend time with? Because there's kind of like a purpose. It's not necessarily bad, but we've got this goal that we're trying to hit. Now, the thing about friendships of utility and friendships of pleasure is they don't last. Like one person told me once, he realized his friends are actually just what he called Star Wars friends, because they only spend time because they like Star Wars together. That's all they talk about. But once their interests changed, that friendship dissolved. So again, it's not necessarily bad, but friendships of utility and of pleasure, they don't fill the heart. So if all of our friendships are kind of at that level, we can still feel quite lonely. Looking at today's gospel, we see that God made us for friendships of virtue and then for family. So we should be able at some point in time to be able to find friendships where we're all trying to become like Jesus, but at the same time, we want to have same common interests. But he also made us to find happiness in family. So family is where there's a mix of people united either by marriage or by blood. At the beginning of the gospel, it says, "Among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, 'Sir, we wish to see Jesus.' Philip went and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus." There's something significant here, but it's quite hidden. Why did the Greek people go to St. Philip and St. Andrew? And the answer is because they're the only two apostles with Greek names. So Jesus is Jewish, the 12 apostles are Jewish, they all have Jewish names except for these two, Philip and Andrew. So there have been, throughout history, some non-Jewish people who would come to believe in the Jewish God, the one Lord. And so during this Passover festival, there are some Greeks who, in a very human way, they look for the person they can associate with. Oh, that guy's got a Greek name. Let's talk to him. He probably speaks Greek. And so the author St. John today, he reminds us that St. Philip is from Bethsaida. So Bethsaida being in the north, they had more contact with Greek culture, as opposed to, say, the south, Jerusalem, which would have less contact. So they go to St. Philip, then he goes to St. Andrew, and they go tell Jesus. So this is great. This is often the beginning of friendships. Whenever we go to any place, any gathering of people, we'll start to look who's our age, who kind of dresses like we do, and you would naturally approach them. That's good, that's normal. But Jesus' reply is very interesting. Philip went and told Andrew, then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." What's the connection between Jesus' response and what just happened? The answer is that the hour has come for him to die and rise, because finally, some non-Jewish people have come to worship at the temple. Jesus taught that his mission wasn't just to gather the Jewish people into one family. He wants to gather the whole world into one family. He says at the end of the gospel, "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, when I'm crucified, will draw all people to myself." And hundreds of years before, the prophet Isaiah, he prophesied at the end times there would be some non-Jewish people who will go to Jerusalem to worship. And so as soon as this happens and Jesus recognizes it, he's thinking, they've come. Now it's time for me to lay down my life and rise again for all people to gather us together. So one thing we want to remember from the Bible is that God is our Father, and he wants us to all be one family together on earth. And we believe that the Catholic Church is this family on earth. Now let me see if I can unpack this a bit more. What unites Catholics? So we are in every single country in the world, but we speak different languages. We're of different races, different backgrounds, different cultures, different traditions. What unites us together? 4 things. 1 is invisible, 3 are visible. The invisible one is love or sanctifying grace. The 3 visible ones would be our faith. We all share the same essential beliefs, not everything, but the essentials we do. Our worship, our sacraments, how we pray, it's the same. And finally, what we call apostolic succession. So every Catholic in the world will follow some bishop who is in union with the successor of St. Peter in Rome, the Pope. And so not only does that give us unity across the world, it also gives us unity across time, because all the bishops have been connected. They all ordained each other, coming from Jesus. So all people in the world, when they look at the Catholic Church and they think about it, they say, wow, that's remarkable cohesion. There's no other institution or idea that has that kind of cohesion across the world and throughout time. Now compare that to race. I'll give you an example. What unites Chinese people? So generally speaking, we're of the Han race. We have a shared history, shared cuisine, lots of MSG. And most of us speak Chinese, except for people like myself. But to be Chinese, you don't have to have the same beliefs. You don't have to pray the same way or worship the same way, and we don't have the same leadership. Compare that again to being Canadian. What makes someone Canadian? It's not our race. According to Canada.ca, there are 6 things that we need to do to become Canadian. We have to be a permanent resident, live here for 3 out of the past 5 years, file super high taxes. I'm just adding that high part. But they do say file taxes. Pass the citizenship test, prove our language skills in English or French, and then take an oath of citizenship. Now, I don't know, does anyone remember 2 years ago when Prime Minister Trudeau said that some Canadians hold unacceptable views? Does anyone remember that? I brought that up, yeah. Here's the point. To be Canadian, you can hold different views because our views don't unite us. That's what religion is. Religion is by definition, you're united by your beliefs, but not being Canadian. So because there is a void of common beliefs in Canada, typically when there's a void, something will try to fill the vacuum. And there's a number of intellectuals who suggest that wokeism will fill that vacuum, because wokeism is, as a lot of intellectuals say, it's kind of like a religion. Because to be woke, you have to believe certain things. If you don't, you get canceled. Now, without Jesus, our whole faith would collapse, and then we'd fall into so many errors. The whole Catholic Church is completely dependent on Jesus. He is the one human who's also God. He knows us perfectly. He loves us perfectly because, as God, he made us. So one of the greatest blessings which none of us deserve is to be part of his family. Okay, so now let's see how we are living community in our parish family. As I've mentioned, for those of you who've been here, this is our, what I call the big picture homily series. So 5 homilies in a series, trying to give, what is the big picture of our parish? We're going through the 5 purposes of any church, or what they might call 5 systems. So the first blessing to highlight is what happens here on Sunday at our parish. We have time to spend, we have opportunities to spend time together after Mass. You can go to the Sunday brunches, the CWL Cafe. You can reach out to each other during our name tag Sundays. So these are opportunities to build Christian relationships, because to live an authentic Christian life, you really need other people to support you. You need other people in your family. And our parish family is healthy insofar as we know and love each other. So here are a few questions if you like to reflect on them. Do you have good relationships with people here? It probably depends on how much time you put in. Generally speaking, if we were all to just take off after Mass, just everyone goes in separate directions, we wouldn't have a very healthy community. Other questions. Are people happy to see you when you come here? I guess not. Well, maybe partially. Do people smile at you when you come here? And do you smile at them? Hey, good. So just let's think about those questions, because we want to think, are we making our parish family stronger or weaker? And the second blessing to highlight is our life groups. So we can just let these pictures roll while I speak. If you have made Jesus the center of your life, if you want to journey with other disciples, consider joining a life group. The foundation of life groups is that we have a common pursuit. We all want to become like Jesus. We often can't get that in our family and friends. Now, if we can, that is great, but usually it's not as intentional. We in life groups, we commit to meeting every 2 weeks, because you don't want to wait until there's a crisis, like someone's really not doing spiritually well. What you want to do is maintain real spiritual health, stay nourished. So right now we praise God for 26 life groups and 123 people in them. We don't have every photo. And if you're a disciple, please talk to Ricky Fernandez about forming a group. And that's the best photo of them all. Okay, we're going to conclude. It is normal we reach out to people who are like us. It is a joy to share common interests. Go to Mass anywhere in the world, no matter where you go in the world, any country. Just go there. You might not speak the language, but you will have the same faith, the same Mass, and the same leadership. And hopefully within this huge worldwide spiritual family, we can all find friendships of virtue. God made us to find happiness in friendships and family.